Hello everyone and welcome to this edition of Vintage NASCAR Owners, Bud Moore. Walter Maynard Bud Moore Jr., better known as Bud Moore, born May 25, 1925, in Spartanburg, South Carolina, is a former NASCAR Cup Series owner whose team, Bud Moore Engineering, competed from 1961 through 2000. Several notable drivers spent time driving for Moore's team, such as Joe Weatherly, Tiny Lund, Bobby Issac, Buddy Baker, Bobby Allison, Benny Parsons, Dale Earnhardt, Ricky Rudd, Morgan Shepherd, and Geoff Bodine, along with several others. This team found plenty of success throughout its existence. Before we get into his NASCAR career as a car owner, first we're going to start back in 1943. On June 2nd, one day after graduating high school and only a week after his 18th birthday, Moore was drafted into the U.S. military, eventually joining the Army. Moore was involved in storming the beach at Normandy, then went on to the Battle of the Bulge. My great-grandfather, Russell Andrews, also served in the Army, and he was also able to survive Normandy and the Battle of the Bulge and safely return home. Moore captured 15 German soldiers and 4 German officers and was awarded the Bronze Star Medal, also receiving 5 Purple Hearts, 4 for shrapnel damage and 1 for taking machine gun fire. Eventually, he was promoted to sergeant and won a second Bronze Star for his involvement in a battle located in an abandoned hospital. Moore was officially discharged on November 15, 1945, ending his military service as a sergeant. By 1950, Bud Moore returned home and began his NASCAR career as crew chief for his friend Joe Eubanks, debuting in the inaugural Southern 500 held at Darlington Raceway, finding plenty of success, winning 49 races and 2 Grand National Series championships, now Cup Series championships, in 1956 and 57 with Buck Baker. In 1961, Moore opened Bud Moore Engineering, his NASCAR Cup Series race team. Joe Weatherly became the team's first driver of their number 8 Pontiac. The team's debut race, Weatherly won in his qualifying race at Daytona. Bud Moore Engineering went on to find plenty of success in their debut season. Weatherly ended 61 with 4 poles, 8 wins, 12 top 5s, and 16 top 10s, finishing 4th in final Cup Series point standings. Tommy Irwin, Cotton Owens, Fireball Roberts, and David Pearson also made one-off starts for the team in 61. Moore's team won their 2 Cup Series championships in 1962 and 63, with Weatherly again serving as the team's driver. Combining both seasons' results, in 85 starts, Weatherly scored 13 poles, 12 wins, 53 top 5s, and 64 top 10s. David Pearson and Bob Wellborn each made a one-off start apiece in 62 and 63. Following the success that they found over the previous couple seasons, Weatherly was considering retirement prior to the season, only making 2 starts in the team's number 8 Pontiac and Mercury. His best start was 6th, and his best finish was 2nd, both coming at Concord in the spring. The next start he would make would end up being his final start ever. While racing at Riverside International Speedway, Weatherly lost control entering turn 6 and struck a concrete barrier. When workers got to his race car, Weatherly was dead. He hit his head on the concrete barrier when his head slid out the window and struck the wall, suffering life-ending head injuries. Moore would retire the number 8 and switch to the number 1, hiring 1963 NASCAR Rookie of the Year Billy Wade as the team's new driver. Wade's first start in the number 1 Mercury was at Daytona in a qualifying race, starting and finishing 10th. Together, Wade and Moore had a successful season together in 1964. Darrell Derringer made 15 starts in the number 16 Mercury. His best start was first at Daytona in the summer, and his best finish was first at Augusta in the fall. Mario Rossi served as crew chief for the number 16 entry. Wade was to remain driving for Bud Moore Engineering for the 1965 season, though in a tire test at Daytona International Speedway, Wade lost his life following a tire blowout, which resulted in a life-ending accident. Moore retired the number 1 following the accident. For the 1965 NASCAR Cup Series season, Oral Barber and Darrell Derringer each made select starts in the team's number 15 and 16s. Darrell Derringer's best start and finish was first, both coming at Daytona in a qualifying race. In 13 starts, Derringer scored 1 pole, 1 win, 7 top 5s, and 8 top 10s. Earl Balmer made 9 starts in Bud Moore Engineering's number 15 Mercury. His best start was 2nd at Daytona in the summer, and his best finish was 2nd at Charlotte in the spring. Overall, 9 starts, Balmer scored 2 top 5s and 4 top 10s. Also in 1965, Moore partnered with Fran Hernandez to build drag cars. The 1966 season saw Moore cut back to a one-car operation. the number 16 Mercury with Darrell Derringer behind the wheel. Even though they only ran a limited schedule, 66 was still a successful season, as they still found victory lane a couple times. Derringer's best start was second twice, at Darlington in the spring and Weaverville in the fall. His best finish was first also twice, at Weaverville and Darlington in the fall. Overall, in 14 starts, Derringer scored 2 wins, 4 top 5s, and 5 top 10s, finishing 12th in final Cup Series point standings. There was a rotation of drivers behind the wheel of the team's number 15s and 16 Mercuries in 1967. Bobby Allison, Gordon Johncock, Sam McQuagg, Cale Yarborough, and Leroy Yarborough combined to make 19 starts. Leroy Yarborough scored the team's best finish third in Atlanta in the fall. Overall, 19 starts, the team scored 3 top 5s and 5 top 10s. Moore and Hernandez joined Dan Gurney, fielding a Mercury Cougar in the SCCA Trans Am Series. Bud Moore's Cougar team is what they named it, with Parnelli Jones, Dan Gurney, and Peter Revson driving the team car. They won 4 races and only lost the series championship by 2 points. Mercury left the series at the end of the 1967 season. Moore continued to only run a limited schedule with his team in 1968. Tiny Lund made 13 starts in the number 16 Mercury. His best start was third at Macon in the summer, and his best finish was fourth at Rockingham in the fall. Overall, in 13 starts, Lund scored 3 top 5s and 7 top 10s. Cale Yarborough also made 1 start for Bud Moore Engineering at Macon in the spring, starting 5th and finishing 21st after blowing a head gasket. There was a new division for America pony cars called the Grand American Series. Tiny Lund served as a driver for Moore in his Cougar. Lund would find lots of success in this series, winning the 1968 championship, and from 1968 through 1972, he won 41 of the series' 109 races. Don Sisler made the only other start that Bud Moore Engineering would make in 1969. At Talladega in the fall, he started 30th and finished 36th after he blew his engine prior to the green flag. Moore returned to the Trans Am Series in 1969, having Parnelli Jones and Joe Fallmer driving a pair of Boss 302 Mustangs. They combined to score 3 victories. Again in 1970, Moore returned to the Trans Am Series with Jones and Fallmer driving. Jones dominated the series, winning 5 races in the series championship. Fallmer scored a victory also at Loudon, Fallmer also scored a victory at Loudon, giving Moore's team 6 wins overall in 1970. R.J. Reynolds entered the sport in 1972 as the series' new title sponsor, also cutting the schedule down to around 30 races a season. As the Grand American Series came to an end, Moore went back to fielding NASCAR Cup Series entries on a limited basis, only making 10 starts in 72, with Donnie Allison making 6 starts, with the best finish of 8th at Daytona in the summer. David Pearson also made 2 starts, scoring the team's best finish of the 1972 season, 4th at Atlanta in the spring. Dick Brooks and Leroy Yarborough each made a one-off start as well. 1973 saw Bud Moore Engineering hire 1970 NASCAR Cup Series champion Bobby Issac to drive the team's number 15 Stay Power Industries Ford. He made 19 starts before retiring from full-time top-level competition, following race 20 at Talladega, when he heard a voice in his head say to get out of his race car and quit racing. He did so abruptly. Isac's best start was second at Atlanta in the spring. His best finish was second twice at Daytona and Atlanta in the spring. Overall, in 19 starts, Issac scored 5 top 5s and 6 top 10s. Starting race 22 at Darlington in the fall, Darrell Waltrip became the team's new driver. Waltrip made 5 starts for Moore, always qualifying excellent inside the top 8 in all 5 starts, though 4 starts ended in DNFs. His best finish was 8th at Darlington in the fall also. Waltrip and Moore parted ways at the conclusion of the season. With sponsorship money from R.C. Cola in 1974, Moore hired George Fallmer to become the team's new driver of their number 15 Fords. After race 12 at Dover, Moore fired Fallmer due to lack of performance. His best start was second at Martinsville in the spring, and his best finish was 4th at Atlanta in the spring. Overall, in 11 starts, he scored 3 top 5s and 5 top 10s. Buddy Baker would take over for Fallmer, making the final 16 starts of the season for the team. His best start was first, twice, at Pocono in the summer and Dover in the fall. His best finish was second, 4 times, at Bristol and Pocono in the summer, then Dover and Martinsville in the fall. Overall, in 16 starts, Baker scored 2 poles, 0 wins, 9 top 5s, and 10 top 10s. From 1975 through 1977, Buddy Baker would serve as Bud Moore Engineering's full-time driver of the number 15 Norris Industries Ford. Together, they would definitely find success. In 83 starts, Baker scored 5 poles, 5 wins, 37 top 5s, and 49 top 10s, with the best points finish of 5th in 1977. The next driver Bud Moore Engineering would have behind the wheel of the number 15 Fords was Bobby Allison from 1978 through 1980. This would prove to be an excellent combination, as they found success all 3 seasons together. Allison would overall in 92 NASCAR Cup Series starts score 6 poles, 14 wins, 44 top 5s, and 62 top 10s, with the best points finish of 2nd in 1978. Next was Benny Parsons as Bud Moore Engineering's driver, though only for the 1981 season, behind the wheel of the number 15 Melling Tool Ford full-time. 81 was a solid season for the team. Parsons' best start was 3rd 3 times, at both Nashville races and Pocono in the summer. His best finish was 1st 3 times, in Nashville and Texas World Speedway in the spring, then Richmond in the fall. Overall scoring 3 wins, 10 top 5s, and 12 top 10s, finishing 10th in final NASCAR Cup Series point standings. For the 1982 and 83 season, Dale Earnhardt became the driver of the number 15 Wrangler Jeans Ford. The 1980 NASCAR Cup Series champion was in between his RCR stints. Combined the 2 seasons to make 60 starts altogether, scoring 1 pole, 3 wins, 16 top 5s, and 30 top 10s, with the best points finish of 8th in 1983. Ricky Rudd would leave RCR to drive for Bud Moore Engineering starting in 1984. Rudd would drive the number 15 Ford from 1984 through 1987. Rudd and Moore were successful all 4 seasons together. Overall, they scored 5 poles, 6 wins, 41 top 5s, and 65 top 10s, with the best points finish of 5th in 1986, though he finished inside the top 10 all 4 seasons they were together. Then Bud Moore Engineering assigned a young Brett Bodine to drive the number 15 Ford full-time, starting in 1988 and lasting through the conclusion of the 1989 NASCAR Cup Series season. Brett's best start was 2nd at Darlington in the spring of 1989. His best finish was 3rd at Charlotte in the fall of 1988. This combination really didn't find that much success together. Overall, in 56 Cup Series starts, they scored 3 top 5s and 11 top 10s, with the best points finish 19th in 1988. The 1990 season saw Moore hire veteran Morgan Shepherd to drive the number 15 Motorcraft Ford full-time for 1990 and 91. Shepherd's performance was as good as the equipment would allow. Also, for the first time since the team's debut, Bud Moore had always served as the crew chief for his team. But now, he put Donnie Wingo on the box for Bud Moore Engineering as the new crew chief. Shepherd's best start was 2nd at Michigan in this early summer of 1990. Best finish was 1st at Atlanta in the fall of 1990. Overall, in 56 starts, Shepherd scored 1 win, 11 top 5s, and 30 top 10s, with the best points finish of 5th in 1990. No one knew it at the time, but this would end up being the final time that Bud Moore Engineering would finish in the top 10 in Cup Series point standings. NASCAR was expanding, and single-car teams that their shops not located in the Charlotte area were becoming difficult to remain competitive. Then in 1992, Bud Moore's new driver for his number 15 Motorcraft Ford was Geoff Bodine. Bodine would drive the team number 15 until the last 7 races of the 1993 season, when he left the team to drive for himself after purchasing Alan Kawicki's number 7 Ford team, following Kawicki's death earlier in the 93 season due to a plane crash. Geoff had some strong runs with the team, though by the early 1990s, Bud Moore Engineering had fallen a little bit behind the rest of the competition. In 52 Cup Series starts, Geoff scored 1 pole, 3 wins, 9 top 5s, and 19 top 10s, with the best points finish of 16th, both seasons in 92 and 93. Once Geoff left to drive for his own race team, Lake Speed took over the number 15 Ford for the remainder of the 93 season. His best start was 10th at Atlanta in the fall, and his best finish was 11th at Charlotte in the fall. Speed remained Bud Moore Engineering's full-time driver for the 1994 NASCAR Cup Series season, behind the wheel of the number 15 Quality Care Ford. This would end up being Moore's final season that his team was still competitive on a regular basis. Speed's best start was 10th in Phoenix in the fall. His best finish was 3rd at Bristol in the spring. They spent 3 weeks inside the top 5 and 16 weeks inside the top 10 in point standings throughout the season. Overall, Speed scored 4 top 5s and 9 top 10s, finishing 11th in final NASCAR Cup Series point standings. Midwest short track legend Dick Trickle took over the number 15 Quality Care Ford in 1995. His best start was 4th twice at Darlington and Atlanta in the fall. His best finish was 10th at Pocono in the summer. Overall, Trickle scored 1 top 10 in 31 starts. Trickle and Moore parted ways at the conclusion of the season. As the 1996 NASCAR Cup Series season came, the team found a new primary sponsor in Hayes Modems, as well as a new driver, Wally Dallenbach Jr. Jimmy Means served as the number 15 team's crew chief in 1996. Dallenbach had a couple of bright moments throughout the season, though they continued to get less and less competitive. Dallenbach's best start was 9th at Daytona in the spring. His best finish was 3rd at Sonoma in the spring. Overall, they scored 1 top 5 and 3 top 10s, finishing 25th in the final NASCAR Cup Series point standings. At the conclusion of the season, both Dallenbach and primary sponsor Hayes Modems left the team. Without sponsor or a driver, Bud Moore Engineering didn't make even a single start in 1997. Larry Pearson attempted the Daytona 500 but failed. Then in 1998, Moore was preparing for Tim Steele to become the team's new driver, and also bringing Nike and Sony along as sponsorship, though the deal fell through, sadly. They did return, but only for 2 starts. Ted Musgrave was behind the wheel of a number 15 Rescue Engine Formula Ford. He started 32nd both starts and finished 39th and 43rd due to engine failure both times. Joey Knuckles served as the team's crew chief starting in 1998. That following season in 1999, Bud Moore Engineering made an attempt to qualify for the Daytona 500. With Jeff Green behind the wheel, they missed the field, though. Then Moore was approached by Robert, Sue, and Randy Fenley, who operated a successful NASCAR West Coast team, formerly the Winston West Series. Moore sold the operation to the Fenleys, though he did remain a part of the team as a consultant. They attempted their first race together, with Jeff Purvis and Lance Hooper sharing the driving duties, behind the wheel of number 62 Big Daddy's Barbecue Sauce Ford. Unfortunately, they did not make the race. Derek Cope made 1 start in the number 15 Ford at Charlotte in the fall, starting 24th and finishing 35th. As we started a brand new century, in the year 2000, the team hired Cope to drive the number 15 Fords for what was supposed to be 2 full-time seasons, regardless of whether they secured sponsorship or not. Cope's best start was 12th at Daytona in the spring, and his best finish was 19th at Atlanta in the spring. After DNQing for the 5th race of the season, Cope left the team because they did not keep their word about running full-time. Also in 2000, Ted Musgrave would make the team's final NASCAR Cup Series start at Talladega in the spring. Musgrave started 29th and finished 35th. Following this race, the team shut down due to lack of funds. So, 958 NASCAR Cup Series starts, the team scored 43 poles, 63 wins, 298 top 5s, and 463 top 10s, with the best points finisher first twice, in 1962 and 63, when Joe Weatherly won back-to-back championships. Thank you for watching, everyone, and take care.